Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly Ripa, co-host of Live with Kelly and Michael. I'd like to welcome you to a very special Fireside Hangout with First Lady Michelle Obama. This is the latest in a series of Google Plus Hangouts with the White House to discuss important issues facing America. Last month, both Vice President Biden and President Obama came to Google Plus to answer questions from Americans. And today, I'm honored to be chatting with the First Lady about a very important issue: improving the health and wellness of our families. Mrs. Obama, welcome to Google Plus.
Thank you, Kelly. It's great to see you, and it's great to be hanging out with you and all the Google followers. I feel like I should have on my shorts and be hanging out with some pillows or something, but here we are in the Blue Room, so I'm delighted to be here.
Well, Mrs. Obama, you launched your Let's Move initiative 3 years ago to ensure that all our children grow up healthy and reach their full potential. And joining us today to have a conversation about healthy families are some folks from around the country who are dealing with these issues every day in their own lives. They all submitted their stories on YouTube and Google+, and we're excited to have them discuss their ideas and questions with you. Mrs. Obama, let's meet them. Are you up for that?
Sounds great.
Great. Okay. First up, we have Lexi Croft. She's a mother from Wyoming. Lexi's an avid member of parenting communities on Google+.
Hello, Mrs. Obama and Kelly. It's a pleasure.
Hi, Lexi.
Our
Great to
pleasure
have you.
Next, we have Keishan Shaw. Keishan is a New York native and works in the financial industry. He is also an advocate for kids, inspiring them to live healthier lives.
Hi, Mrs. Obama. Pleasure to meet you.
Hi, Keisha. Good to have you here.
Now we have Brad Lowry, a father of 3 from North Carolina. Brad works in the healthcare field and regularly hosts health and fitness hangouts on Google+.
Hello, Mrs. Obama. Glad to be here.
Hi, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Next is Deneen Milner, a New York Times best-selling author and the founder of the blog MyBrownBaby.com. She lives in Atlanta with her husband and their 2 daughters.
Hi, Mrs. Obama. So good to see you.
It's wonderful to see you, too. Looking forward to our chat.
Absolutely.
And lastly, we have Mrs. McInnes's 3rd grade class joining us from Brewer Community School in Brewer, Maine. The class has recently been learning all about health and fitness, so they're very excited to chat with you today, and may I say, very well behaved.
I know.
Mrs. Obama, on your tour, one of the things you've been talking about is the importance of fitness and physical activity. Keishan, why don't you get us started, okay?
Thank you so much, Kelly. So I can show you a picture of myself. I used to weigh 200 pounds when I was 12 years old. It was just a very different experience. When I was 19 years old, I was 400 pounds. One day I need to buy a suit. The tailor puts his tape measure around my waist, and it's 62 inches. Didn't even fit a 60-inch tape measure. So I made a vow that day to focus on diet and exercise, and I lost over 200 pounds. No surgeries, no fad diets, no trainers. So I would love to know what's your advice to the 200-pound Keishans of America, the 12-year-olds that are struggling with their weight, and how can we empower them to make that first step?
Well, first of all, Keishan, I just want to congratulate you on such a huge accomplishment. And I know it's been a challenging journey, but you look amazing. And more importantly, I know you feel amazing. What I would say to young kids, and I would not just talk to the kids, but I would talk to the people in their lives, their parents, their teachers. I mean, the first thing that we want to make sure that we do is not make this an issue about looks. We should really talk to kids about how they feel inside, so that we're not just dealing with the physical manifestations of the challenge, but we're really tapping into what's going on inside that head of that child. And then we want to talk about ways to make it fun. When I talk to my kids, and we were going through some of these similar challenges, obviously when my kids were little, they were, weren't faced with the huge challenges you were faced with, but I never talked about weight in the household. We just started making changes, and we made changes in a way that didn't, it didn't make them feel badly about themselves. It didn't even make them feel any ownership over it, because truly kids that age can't control what they eat. So as the mom, I took it upon myself to make sure that we just surrounded them with foods that were healthy and that they could eat whenever they wanted to. You just have to, get the temptation out of the household wherever possible, and then just try to make activity fun. I mean, most kids just really want to play. And if you talk about exercise in terms of play and not making kids feel like they have to be an athlete or they have to be great at a sport. But you get out and get them walking, something simple. You just start out with walking and you make them feel successful in very small ways. So I think overall we have to keep encouraging kids. We have to make it fun. We don't want to make it about how they look. We want to make it about how they feel. And all of us in the lives of children who surround us, we as adults have to make sure that we're taking ownership as well, and we're doing everything that we can to make that journey a little bit easier for them.
Sure. Well, let's hear from Lexi next. That was great, Keishan, and congratulations on your personal success. Lexi?
Well, with policies like the No Child Left Behind Act that focus on improving test scores, we have seen a de-emphasis on health and physical education. And so, Mrs. Obama, in your mind, what can schools do to maybe create a good balance so that these kids they perform well on tests, but get the physical activity that they need?
That's a great question, and we've been talking about this all throughout the tour. Secretary Duncan, our Secretary of Education, who's a wonderful individual who has showed deep concern about this issue, talks about it in terms of fitness and education being like a false choice, that we've treated it as you can do one or the other, but you can't do both. And what we know, and we know in our hearts as parents that both are important, and research is proving that to be true, because kids' performance on tests and attendance is directly related to their health, how they feel, whether they're moving every day, whether they're starting out their days with a good, balanced breakfast. It all plays a role in how they perform in school. So if we start out with that premise that physical fitness and good nutrition is key to academic success, if we start there, then the choices that we make throughout the day will bear out our understanding of the need for that balance. One of the things that we announced on the tour was a new initiative called Let's Move Schools. And it's an initiative that's designed to put physical activity back into the school day on a daily basis. And we'll talk more about that over the course of our hangout, but this is one of the things that we're really trying to focus on with Let's Move, is not just nutrition, not just diet, but also that other leg of the stool, which is getting our kids moving. Our kids need 60 minutes of activity every single day. And the kids today are nowhere near coming close to that number. Most of our kids are spending an average of 7.5 hours a day in front of some kind of screen. And again, we as the adults have to figure out how to strike that balance, and we have to do it in our schools because that's where our kids are spending most of their day.
Deneen, you also have kids in school. Why don't you weigh in?
I do. I have two daughters, one who goes to private school where recess is a priority, and so is yoga, and they even get a chance to nap during the day just so they can get re-energized. Whereas my younger daughter goes to a public school where recess isn't necessarily a priority. And she's lucky because there's some urban areas where the space outside just doesn't exist. And so getting the kids out of the classroom and out into a playground is a bit of a challenge. What can administrators in these schools do to get their kids moving, even with that restriction on space outside?
Yeah, administrators, school officials, school leadership, parents, the community, we have to get creative in those instances. And there are models of schools out there that are figuring out how to make that happen, because Deneen, you're absolutely right. There are so many communities where it's just not safe for kids to play outside. And obviously the safety of our kids is our first priority. But daily activity is just as critical as their overall safety. Some schools have done things like having what they call these brain buster moments, where they just stand up in their classroom and they run through a routine that gets their hearts pumping, and it's fun, and they have music. We actually participated in one of these little brain buster events at a school in Clinton, Mississippi last week as part of the tour. The PE teacher had right during lunch, had the kids stand up right in their chairs and went through a 15-minute routine that included a moment of calm when he told the students to go into namaste. They all got quiet. They settled down. They let their heart rates come down, and they did that all in a span of 15 minutes, just standing right at their chairs during the lunch hour. So the point is that we have to get creative, and there are schools all across this country that are figuring out ways, regardless of resources or space, they're finding ways to get kids moving in a fun, creative way. Again, Let's Move Active Schools is, Let's Move Schools, Let's Move Active Schools is our new initiative that's trying to get everyone to become a champion for getting physical fitness back in the schools. And I encourage people to go to our website, Let's Move Schools, to find out how they can make their school become one of our active schools. We're going to get the whole entire public school system moving in this country. That's our goal.
I love that. As a mom, though, when my kids get out of school, I'm fortunate. I live in a good neighborhood. We don't have to worry about my children's safety. But there are plenty of other places where it is a concern for moms. I mean, right in your own hometown, just a month or so ago, a really promising student, Hidea Pendleton, was killed doing something that kids all across the land should be able to do, which is just go to the park after school with their friends. You know, when we were little, we got to play double dutch and hopscotch and skellies and jacks. And I just feel like there are a lot of communities here in America where that's not possible for kids. Like a mother doesn't feel comfortable sending her child out to do that just because it's not safe. How do those moms help their children go outside, get that fresh air, do all those wonderful games that kids should be able to play, and all the wonderful activities that they should be able to do when there's that specter of danger around them?
Absolutely. Well, that's where we as a community have to come together for our kids. You know, schools are an important place to get our kids active again, because that's where they're spending most of their day. But when I was growing up, our church was that place. You know, we did activities in the basement of our church, and it seemed like the biggest basement on earth. But looking back, it was a pretty small space, and we would do plays and workshops and learn the flutophone, and you know, so the church was a safe haven for us growing up. And we have churches all throughout communities that are in desperate need of safe havens for kids, and they could be safe havens for kids for physical activity as well. So again, we as the community, the adults surrounding these kids, we've got to get creative. And I would encourage parents that if they also find themselves in a situation where they can't get outside, then let's figure out what we can do indoors. Because it doesn't take the great outdoors to be moving every day. You know, one of the things that I do with my kids, I turn on the radio and we will dance and work up a sweat for a good 30, 40 minutes. They laugh at me, they have a good time, but at the same time, we're moving. So we want to give parents those kind of tips, you know, and be able to reach every parent where they are, because every circumstance is different. But we have to be creative, and we have to understand that daily movement isn't an option, even in areas that are not as safe as we'd like them to be. It's just not an option.
Well, we're speaking about children inside the classroom. Let's go inside the classroom right now, the Brewer classroom and the children there.
Hello, Mrs. Obama. My name's Mackenzie. Maine has a lot of cold, snowy days. Do you have any ideas of how we can move and get the wiggles out on these days without any recess?
First of all, hello to all of you guys. You look amazing. Yeah, it's great to see you. I see you've got a healthy lunch there too, but some ideas for getting moving. First of all, getting outside, getting moving is about playing, right? That's all you want to do. And what a great way to get active than to go outside on a snowy day and roll around in the snow and roll down some hills and play, have a snowball fight. All of that is activity, guys. You don't have to be in an organized sport. You just want to get outside and run and breathe hard and laugh and fall in the snow. But there are also a whole range of great winter sports. If we've got athletes, there's hockey and ice skating. I know my family, we like to ski. We don't get to ski often because you got to go somewhere to ski. But if you live in a community where you have these activities, then especially now as third graders, take up a sport, learn to skate, try to become the best skater, skier, hockey player that you can be so that you can be active all year round. That's what I tell my girls. That's one of the reasons why we ski, because I want them to have a sport that they can do outside when it gets cold. But there are many, many ways to get involved in cold days, right? You guys have any favorite winter sports that you like to do? Just shout it out.
Basketball.
A little snowboarding, a little basketball. See, you guys already know it. And you look like you're moving too over there anyway. It looks like you guys are are healthy kids.
They are such a well-behaved classroom. I've never seen children with the ability to sit so still for such a long period of time. They really should be commended. Let's go to Brad now for his question. Brad has a question for you, Mrs. Obama.
Yes, Ms. Obama, on Google Plus, we have regular hangouts with our fitness and nutrition community. And when new members come onto the community, we like to ask them a few questions about their fitness and nutrition routine. So I want to share a couple of those questions with you. First, what is your and President Obama's favorite workout or post-workout snack? And also, do you ever work out together as a family?
Great questions. Workout snacks. We do a lot of protein shakes because, quick energy, you digest them, they absorb in the body really quickly, give you good energy before and after the workout. But if we have time for food, fruits are great. An apple, we have apples all over the White House, in every part of the White House, including our residence. So the apple is like our go-to snack. It's like the power food. Then I love hummus with fresh vegetables whenever I can get them. So we're just like everybody else. I mean, anything that's a fruit or a vegetable that gives us the energy that we need before or after a workout really does it does a body good. And we actually do work out. Barack and I, we work out every morning together. Sometimes I get up to the gym a little bit before him, but we're usually in there at some point together, and we work out every single day. The girls are now old enough where they're involved in their own activities, basketball, dance, tennis, track. So they're busy after school almost every day and almost every day during the weekend. And we try to go to their sports events whenever possible. The president was an assistant coach of Sasha's basketball team, the Vipers. So we are very involved in our kids' lives physically, because it just makes it more fun when the whole family can share in these things together.
Mrs. Obama, let's go back to Brewer Elementary. I know that you had mentioned the healthy lunch that you had seen before you. Let's touch on that with the kids back at Brewer Elementary.
Good morning, Mrs. Obama.
Good morning. It's good to see you guys again. What do you have there?
It's an honor to meet you. Allie is going to show you what's on the menu today.
Hello, Mrs. Obama. This is a deli turkey sandwich with bug bite grams, salad, 1% low-fat milk, beans, and pears.
Our question for you is, what can we do to help the children choose to eat the fruits and vegetables and not throw them out?
Oh, that's a very good question. You know, one of the things that I like to do with my kids and kids that I meet is to give them the power of information. Because here's the thing, guys, the fruits and the vegetables are probably one of the most important parts of your lunch, because they give you the energy that you need. I mean, food, lunchtime isn't just it's not a punishment. It is actually, it's what you need to keep your body moving. And the vegetables and the fruits fill you up and give you the energy that you need to think and do well in your exams. And for any of you kids that love sports, you need those vegetables and fruits to give you the energy to be able to get through your game or finish recess or do the fun things that you need to do. So I would just ask students to give at every meal take a bite or two of your fruits and your vegetables. Start there, because the more you do it, the more you'll get used to it, and you'll begin to like the flavors of them, because it takes a little time. If you don't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, you're used to like the sugary taste that you get in the other foods. So I want every kid to commit to not throwing anything out. First of all, we don't want to throw out any food, because there are a lot of kids all over this country and all over the world who don't have a lunch. And that's what we have to remember. There are kids out there that would give anything to have that wonderful lunch that you have, because they don't have a lunch at all. So we have to think about them before we throw something out. But, the more information that I think we can give our kids about why this stuff is important, instead of just telling them to eat their fruits and vegetables, if we help them understand what it does for their bodies and how it changes their performance in academics and in sports, it begins to make sense. Does that make sense?
Boys and girls, are we going to eat our fruits and vegetables?
Yeah.
All right, I'd love to hear that.
All right, let's go to Lexi next. Lexi?
Well, that looked like a really good lunch.
It did, didn't it?
Yes. So we live out west, where my kids attend a Title I school, which is usually a school in a lower income neighborhood. And our schools are trying hard with the resources that they have to provide balanced meals for our kids. But meal options continue to include the likes of nachos with cheese sauce and corn dogs. So my question for you, Mrs. Obama, is what do you think can be done to ensure kids get healthier, even healthier lunches at school?
Well, we have to remember that the new nutrition standards and lunches just went into effect, and many schools are still making the transition, and it's going to take some time. If any school out there is having challenges, they should contact the USDA, because they've got people on staff that are ready to work with schools, because these changes are hard. We're going from one way of doing things to a totally different paradigm. And the USDA understands that schools are going to need the help and support for quite some time. So as a parent, if you notice that your school lunches aren't improving, we'd encourage you, first of all, to work with the school as best you can, if that is at all possible, to speak out, to find other parents that care about this issue, to find teachers who care about this issue, work within the school, but also know that these nutrition standards are becoming a requirement, and that eventually every school will have to make these changes. So you just have to keep pushing and encourage the school, your school, if you don't see it, to reach out and get help and support. But this is going to be a community effort, right? You can change policies, but it's going to take some time for the culture to shift, and it may not happen overnight, but it's going to happen, which is why these goals around childhood obesity are generational goals. And we shouldn't get too upset if our kids don't automatically, respond the way we want to. I mean, the third graders that we're talking about, if they start these healthy habits now, we're looking at what kind of kids they're going to be when they're headed to college, right? Kids who are used to eating fruits and vegetables every day. Their whole attitude about food will change by the time they get to college and they go off and start raising their families. Those are the goals that we're working for. So we shouldn't get too down about what's not working today, because we're always looking toward the future on this one.
Mrs. Obama?
No, I'm sorry, Brad, go ahead.
Well, in regards to the guidelines and the standards you were just talking about, every year $4 billion are spent on soft drinks through the government-sponsored nutrition programs like the SNAP program, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's the new food stamp program. There are currently some initiatives to purchase healthier foods, but could we see stricter nutritional regulations with these programs to encourage raising healthier families?
The focus that we've had through Let's Move has really been on giving parents the information that they need to make the best choices for them. That's been our approach through Let's Move, and it will continue to be our approach. I think every community, has to determine what policies work best for them. We've got policymakers in Washington that are going to be looking at these very issues, and they'll be deciding on what's the best direction. But in the meantime, my goal is to make sure that the parents out there understand the impact of the choices that they make. Information is really the key to power. The same thing is true with our kids. They have to understand what food really means to them if we want them to make those whole-scale changes in their lives that will last them a lifetime. So our focus right now is making sure that people understand what sodas do to your body and why fruits and vegetables are so important, and give them the guidelines to help figure out what a healthy plate looks like, which is why we launched My Plate, so that people have an easier way of figuring out what does a healthy plate look like, and doing that across cultures with Mi Plato as well. So our focus is going to continue to be to drive home the point we've got to better inform our families and our communities. We've got to make the healthy choices, the easiest choices for families, and then look for ways to continue to support them along the way.
Let's check back in with Keishan. Keishan?
Yeah, sure. So Mrs. Obama, when I was 400 pounds, I felt almost invisible in society, almost as if I was a burden. And America is the greatest country in the world. We don't discriminate against anyone. We welcome people from all cultures and all walks of life. But, you know, being obese in this country, you are stigmatized. Think about paying an extra fare for an extra seat in an airline. How do we break down the cultural barriers and societal stigmas when fighting obesity?
Yeah, you know, it goes back to my answer to your first question. I think we should be talking about these issues in terms of health and not in terms of physical, how kids or people look physically, because people can't help how they look, you know, but we want every American to be healthy. And I think kids can understand that question or that point of health. You know, what do you do to give yourself the energy you need to live a good life, to run when you want to run, you know, to be able to move and breathe easy. We want to talk in those terms, and particularly as we're dealing with our young girls. I mean, I have 2 young daughters. We never talk about weight. I make it a point. You know, I don't want our children to be weight obsessed. I want them to be focused on what do I have to do in this body, because every body is different. Every person's body is different. What do I have to do to be the healthiest that I can be? And that means I've got to eat my vegetables, I've got to eat my fruits, I've got to not eat too much junk food if I can help it, and I just have to move. I don't have to be a jock. I don't have to be an Olympic gold medalist. I just have to walk a little more, maybe ride my bike, maybe get up and dance with my mom, maybe walk up those stairs instead of running. We need to bite off these goals and focus on the health of individuals and not focus on weight or looks and measuring people's worth in that way. It doesn't help us as a society, and it definitely doesn't help the individuals who are struggling with this issue.
Mrs. Obama, I know our panel wants to ask a couple of personal questions. I hope that's okay.
Sure.
Brad, I think Brad has the first question.
Yes, I read that you love playing the piano so much as a young lady that you had to be told to stop practicing. So I wanted to know, do you still play?
You know, I will dabble every now and then, but I didn't listen to my mother and I stopped practicing, which is what I try to tell kids. Don't stop practicing. I love the piano, but I don't get to play it that much. It's one of my hopes is that, you know, whenever I settle down and I stop being first lady and I have a little more time on my hands, that maybe one day I'll take lessons again, because I certainly love music. So thanks for asking.
How about you, Lexi?
Well, my question is, as not normal as life must be in the White House, what do you and the president do to create some sense of normalcy for your family and just in your home life?
We try to continue the routines and the habits and traditions that we had before we were here. You know, something as simple as making sure we sit down for dinner together every night. I talk about this all the time. I mean, it was actually something that we didn't have the time to do before coming here. But because both the president and I basically live above the store, as he says oftentimes, he can structure his schedule so that we're all here at the same time. And that family meal turns out to be the most important time of day for all of us. And
I have to agree.
Yeah, and that's something that we encourage families to try to do more of. It's tough in this modern day fast-paced world, but when we talk about our kids' health and obesity, studies do show that increased family dinners do have an effect, because that's the time you know what your kids are eating, you know, and you can talk about it in a non-judgmental way. You can talk about the day. You tend to eat a little more slowly because you're not just gobbling down your food in front of the television. You're sharing, you're sort of letting go of all that emotion from the day. So that makes us feel normal, because we walk up, you know, you walk into the doors of the residence and it's just home. It's no longer the White House. And that's important for us, and it's important for every family in America.
Keishan, do you have a question for the First Lady?
Sure. So, Mrs. Obama, I saw you present the award for Best Picture this year at the Oscars. Can you tell us what that was like?
It was absolutely nerve-wracking because it was live and nobody knew we were doing it, although we were right here in the White House and we were already dressed for dinner with the governors. I was a little more nervous than I thought I'd be. I thought I'd drop the envelope. I thought I'd get the name wrong. I just, it's just a very awesome moment for anyone who grew up like most Americans do, watching movies, watching the Oscars, and here I am presenting the award for Best Picture. It was pretty intimidating, but I got through it.
Deneen, how about you?
Okay, so I know that Let's Move is about families and how to get your kids active, but we have a very important and special member of our family too, just like you do, our dog Teddy, and he's somewhere around here. Come here, buddy. Teddy. He's napping like the lazy dog that he is. But I'm wondering, how do you go about getting Bo involved in your family moving and outdoor time, just so that he doesn't become the fat, lazy dog that my dog apparently is?
Well, Barack says that Bo is not very active. He always teases him, but he actually gets out every day. The girls have to walk him, which is part of after dinner. That's part of their ritual. They have to go outside, and we usually have to say, and don't come right back. Stay outside, give them a good walk, throw the ball, run with them. As it gets warmer and it starts to get lighter outside, we all kind of go out and do that walk together so we can make sure that Bo is running. And, so again, dogs are no different. You want to make sure that they're eating a balanced diet, and if they're not an active dog, make sure that their food is reflective of an inactive dog, and then get them out there and throw that ball and get them running, Right. So we've got to worry about every member of our family. Right. Did he get up?
Let me see.
Is he awake?
Here he is. Look
there he
goes.
goes.
Treats, right? Here he is for the treat. Hi, buddy.
He came for the treat.
You see him?
It's great to see you. I'm glad he woke up from his nap.
I know, right? We all wake up for treats.
Right.
Mrs. Obama, let's go to our last question over at Brewer Elementary School.
Hello, Miss Obama. Our favorite dance move is Raise the Roof.
Let's see. Oh, yeah.
What is your favorite dance move?
Well, it's obviously the Dougie, Can you guys do a little Dougie? But Raise the Roof is a good one. Yeah, there we go. We've got the Brewer students doing a little Dougie. Teach me how to Dougie. Come on, all our participants. You got Kelly, me, everybody. Do a little Dougie. Let's Dougie our way. Oh, yeah, there we go. We're Dougieing all over the land. Where's Brad? I don't see Brad Dougieing. Let's go. Oh, there you go. Way to go. All right, we're all Dougieing.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Obama, not just for the Dougie, of course, but for joining us all today for our viewers. The conversation about working together to raise healthier families will continue online, of course. Use #HealthyLiving on Google+ to share your thoughts and ideas. Thanks to everyone, and goodbye, and hope to see you all again soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.